I'm Sally BAILEY-RAVET. I'm the Chief Interpreter of the Council of Europe. The Council of Europe is Europe's human rights watchdog. Basically our three core activities are related to human rights, to democracy and to the rule of law. The Council of Europe is actually one of the oldest European institution. It was established in 1949 and it's a truly pan-European organization because it comprises all European states with one exception, which is Belarus. Belarus is found to be wanting when it comes to respecting democratic standards and for that reason has not yet been accepted in this organization. Basically, the Council of Europe is a very, very interesting organization to work for as an interpreter, and I'll try and take you through our different activities and the language regime that goes with them. I've been here for over 20 years and I still, love going into the booth and doing some work there as an interpreter, not just as the administrator in the interpretation department. So maybe I should start with our most famous institution, which is the European Court of Human Rights, which is an institution I love to work for personally as an interpreter, in particular the hearings, because 800 million European citizens can turn to the court and say, my rights, my human rights have been breached by my government. And this it's a unique system, this right of individual petition. And as interpreters, you really feel very involved when you have a hearing, when you have to prepare for a hearing and interpret for a hearing. And the language regime of the court is basically the two official languages of the organization, English and French. And then when there is a hearing, the applicants are allowed to ask to speak their own language to make sure, or the applicants or their lawyers. The idea is to make sure, of course, that they can put their case properly to the judges of the court. So normally English and French, but potentially it can be either one of the languages of our member states. It's a very interesting institution for the interpreters because you get to do the hearing, of course, so you listen to all these arguments of the parties that have reached basically the last level for them. They've had to go through all the tiers at national level, at domestic level, and this is their last resort in the way, the Court of Human Rights. And then when the hearing is over, the interpreters also do the deliberations. And that is a great privilege for interpreters because that's when you see the judges' legal minds in action. So we're really part of the secrecy of deliberations, which is a very rewarding experience for interpreters. And we also enjoy very friendly and constructive relations with the judges, which is very nice. We also have the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. That is a different language regime. It's a multilingual regime, so we have the two official languages, English and French, and in addition to that, we have three working languages, which are German, Italian, and Russian. For that, we bring in multilingual interpreters with those languages. Some 100 interpreters come for every session of the Parliamentary Assembly, and there are 4 sessions per year. We have our next session actually next week. There, of course, I'm looking for multilingual interpreters who cover at least 2 of the languages in our language regime. So completely different set of interpreters. We recruit people mainly from Paris, from London, quite a few from Vienna, and also some interpreters from Moscow, from Russia. The Parliamentary Assembly, of course, they're the ones who initiate our work. It then goes to the intergovernmental level, the Committee of Ministers, and then all the intergovernmental committees, which they're responsible for setting standards for our member states. There, the language regime is the official languages again, so it's English and French, with interpreters who are mainly based in Strasbourg. They're the ones who will cover most of our needs. So setting standards for our member states means that we've drafted over 200 conventions, the most recent ones being the Convention Against Trafficking in Human Beings or the Convention Against Violence Against Women. So these are really topics that are very interesting, personally, I find. So you really get, involved as an interpreter. It's a really interesting institution to work for in that respect. We've been setting standards for over 50 years, which means that we have many conventions, and we've realised that setting standards is all very well, but what you need to do is make sure that those standards are applied in member states, and therefore we're doing more and more monitoring work, technical assistance work in the member states. That has led, of course, to a shift in our interpretation needs in terms of languages, but also in terms of the nature of the interpretation work. So we're gradually doing less simultaneous English-French and more consecutive interpretation with English-French, so one of the two official languages, and the language of the country concerned, which means that we're recruiting a more diverse set of interpreters, and we've had to really extend our recruitment to interpreters who are based in our member states, which is very interesting, of course, and it's always nice to meet interpreters from different countries. In terms of our recruitment policy, we do not have accreditation tests because although we are a pan-European organisation, we're actually quite a small organisation in terms of budget, and therefore we don't have the budget to organise accreditation tests like much bigger organisations. What we do to offset that is either take the accreditation tests of other organisations. We recognise those tests, and that will be sufficient for us to include someone on our list of accredited interpreters. Another thing we do is that we try and be as present as possible in interpreting schools, and in particular during the end-of-year exams, which is a good opportunity for us to spot new talent, either bilingual English and French, but also quite a few multilingual interpreters that would cover the Russian in particular is a language that we look for. Passive Russian, I mean, but also interpreters in the English and French booth with German and Italian, and there aren't that many anymore. So those are the languages we're interested in. So once we accredit an interpreter, include that interpreter on our list of accredited interpreters, then of course you could potentially be recruited for parliamentary work, intergovernmental work, or court work.